Hey folks, welcome to Verified Investing Trade Setups in Action video here at InTheMoneyStocks.com. My name is Gareth Soloway, Chief Market Strategist and Master Trader here. All right, so I want to get into the action here. I want to discuss the financial stocks that reported earnings today. I want to look at the charts, see what they tell us. Now, Citigroup reported this morning and JP did as well. You can see the chart in front of you here is JP daily chart. And what's interesting about this is that the stock was up pretty nicely pre-market on the back of the earnings report. And then we saw the open and the stock sold off. And it's now down about just under 2% on the day. However, if you look at the recent rally, it's actually up significantly over the last 2 weeks. So what that tells me is this is probably just a sell the news event. It has less to do with whether the earnings were good or bad, but more so about people just saying, hey, listen, it's run up from $90 all the way to today's high of 103 and change. It's time to take some profits. I continue to like these stocks as long as this trend line holds. So take a look at this, guys. Huge trend line here. Pivot low, and pivot low. So as long as this trend line holds, meaning that price stays above it, I think this stock has more upside to it. The one level I'm watching is very, very crystal clear here. This is your short-term resistance, which is around 106.5. If you can get up to 106.5 and break out, you have more upside to this level, which is 116. 116 will be a lot of resistance, but there's another $10 of upside if you can break out above this level. So I would continue to look at JP and think positively. The only thing that would change my view and say, basically give me a sell signal would be as if you close a daily candle. So one of these daily candles at the end of the day, if it closes below this line, then you want to exit because the stock could go into free fall. All right, let's look at Citigroup. Citigroup was much the same. The stock was up pre-market, now down 5%. You can see there were some key trend lines. We were day trading. We were looking at this as a day trade today. There was a gap fill here and more support. The stock is right into that support. A little bit of a different chart than JP because you've had a bigger dip, right? When we looked at JP it was really a strong rally over the last 2 to 3 weeks. This has actually had a pretty precipitous fall and then a small bounce over the last 2 to 3 weeks. The difference here is that this is more of a bearish pattern. When you have a drop like this and then you have an inside bar action here, this is a bearish pattern. So this chart to me would be in weaker form. I'd be a little bit more cautious on this chart versus JP In addition, if you connect recent lows, you can actually see that, look, pivot low to pivot low, and then you hit it here, consolidated, and broke. And that's what started this bigger down move. So for me, that's a little bit of a concern for the Citigroup chart, and I definitely continue to be more wary of this chart versus the JP chart because the JP chart is still above that upsloping trend line. Now, there is something you can follow here as a secondary level. You could look at this trend line pivot low to this, and you are technically still above that, but if this line breaks, then really watch out. So again, some of you guys might have this on the long side. If you do have it on the long side, I don't know if I'd recommend exiting right now, but as long as you stay above it, I think you could just see what happens. I'm not a huge fan of it, but you could at least see. But if it breaks this trend line on a daily closing basis, then really start to get nervous on that chart. All right. Now, looking at the overall market today, folks, we are seeing the spiders pulling back, the S&P pulling back. You can see here, we just hit what's called gap window. Gap window is where a stock gaps up and opens a day after it closes. So here, this is where we closed 2 days ago, or that would actually be Friday. So Friday's close was here. Here's where we opened yesterday. This is the gap fill is where we closed. The gap window is where you opened. All right, both are supports as you come down, and you can see this one is holding thus far. The gap fill is more important, though. The gap fill will be usually a stronger support level. So still, you could say that we basically have given back this whole move up from yesterday at this point, but you are still holding a support line. We'll see where we go into the end of the day. The markets still seem to be decent in terms of holding up as Prime Day's underway. We have the Apple conference where they're unveiling the iPhone 12, the 5G cycle, although Apple is down over $3 today. Nice pullback on Apple. All right, so that's a little update on the markets overall. Overall, I do have a intra-cycle date for today, and again, we are seeing some downside. We'll see if it cascades into more downside. In terms of opportunities out there, I think you want to be really careful because we're so close to the elections now. I'm a big fan, and I said this yesterday, of the VXX. I think the VXX short term is a good, interesting little opportunity here. It's trading up 35 cents today, but short term, just holding it into the elections, I think you might get some success there, and we'll see how that trades out. But for the most part, I'd be very cautious. I still like the marijuana stocks. The marijuana stocks have rallied up big recently, but they are pulling back a little bit today. I'd look for a little bit more pullback in the next day or so and look to accumulate on the pullback for the next leg up. I still think those things are going higher, folks. They are just so beaten down from years and years of selling. I mean, if you look at some of these daily charts, and in fact, we can go to some of them, where these things were trading a while back. I mean, ACB is the one that's kind of out of favor. This is the one that's weakest. But, I mean, this is just going back to May of this year. But if you zoom out, I mean, look at where this thing was trading back in 2019 at $120 a share. Got as high as basically $150 up here. Look at where it currently is trading. All right, so they're beaten down. There's no doubt about it. Although, again, I do caution that ACB is kind of the weakest of the group. If you want to look at one that's interesting to me, I think Tilray is good. I think Afria is good. I think Canopy Growth is good. Kronos is medium. But, again, if you zoom out on the Tilray chart, I mean, look at where this thing was trading. I mean, $300. By the way, I remember being short with members in the live day trading room when it was up here. And if only I was smart enough to hold it that entire time. But look at where it is now. And again, you can see it's starting to uptick, now pulling back. I still think, again, going into the elections, you have a potential target of $10 to $11 up there at that high pivot on the hopes and dreams that marijuana could be legalized at the federal level as early as 2021. But again, we will know more, obviously, in the coming weeks on that. All right. Otherwise, I just encourage you guys, come follow me on Twitter, Gareth Soloway on Twitter. At Gareth Soloway, you can find me there. Also, come check out my service, Verified Investing. It's on the website inthemoneystocks.com. So you would go to inthemoneystocks.com and click on Verified Investing under my name. That's the swing trade service, and the Verified Options is the option service. Continue to have a banner year, absolute banner year, with gains that are outlandish in all fairness. Although I do have some stocks that I am short right now that are underwater. But again, even with those factored in, I'm still up literally over 50% on my portfolio for the year. It is pretty remarkable. And again, it's all about position size and just adding those profits back to back to back to back. And it has been amazing. So we'll see how things go, folks. I do wish you all the best. Come find me at inthemoneystocks.com.